What's a dead giveaway that you're being cheated on? Story 1. When you get an STD, when you were previously clean. I woke up one night in a lot of pain, so I asked my boyfriend to drive me to the hospital. He refused because he had to work in the morning. It turned out I had pelvic inflammatory disease from an STD. This happened to me, and she had been with multiple people at the time. I found out the order they happened in from her friend. Some guy after that tried to start a fight with me by saying he was fooling around with her. I just smiled and told him he had the clap. Wasn't funny at the time, but now it is. I think this is a scary situation because some STDs can lie dormant for years, but you can always tell the truth based on how they act when you confront them. Story 2. If they cheated on someone to be with you, well, don't be shocked is all. I will finally admit it. My latest ex-girlfriend broke up with her previous boyfriend of 5 years just one day before we started dating, only to date me. 5 to 6 months later, everything was going great. I mean, really great. Then, in just one day, she started acting very differently, and the next day she texted that she wanted to take a break or something. I couldn't believe the way she was talking. It was like a completely different person. She didn't even want to speak on the phone, just texts. No matter how hard I tried, we broke up and she just disappeared within a few days. It was actually a traumatic event. I don't know why or how, but we were planning on marrying in the next few months. After all that, it's been exactly a year since we broke up, and a month or two ago I found out that she's still talking to her ex, the one she left for me. I don't know if they're just talking or if they've been dating since we broke up, and I'll never know for sure, but I believe that was the case. I was still very depressed about it until I found out that they're talking or together again. After that, I decided that mess just wasn't for me, and I finally got over it after 10 months. She also always spoke very badly about her ex when she mentioned him. She'd say it was way too toxic of a relationship, she was never happy with him, he treated her really badly, etc., and that I was the love of her life. Now I wonder if she'll say the same things about me to her next. If this happened to you, you don't need to be ashamed. She really manipulated your feelings. She was going through her own emotional struggles and she decided to use you as a temporary fix. No one is entitled to your emotions and time like she felt she was. Story 3. When they accuse you of accusing them of cheating, and that has nothing to do with the conversation at all. When my partner was cheating, he was really oversensitive to any implication that I didn't trust him. I'd text something like, "What are you doing?" and he'd get all defensive when it was really just an honest question on my part. I had suspicions that my ex was cheating on me for months. One night, she half-heartedly invited me to go out drinking with her girlfriends. I declined, since I wanted her to have her own friends outside of our relationship. She's all happy and humming, something she never did before. She takes a shower, then I see she's getting all dolled up like I haven't seen in years. Not only that, but she's wearing her sexiest underwear, the stuff she wore to signal she was in the mood. I simply say, "Why are you wearing that?" And she says, "It's just what I grabbed." So I said, "You know what? Give me a few minutes to get ready. I think I will go out with you tonight." She had a complete meltdown. She started accusing me of accusing her of cheating, of not trusting her and hurting her feelings. Of course, I was a fool and let her play me, and I ended up apologizing, but I knew. However, things calmed down and all knowledge of that kinda left my mind until years after she had left me. Then I remembered all of that and more. Yeah, she was cheating. I've no doubt about it. The old, "Why don't you trust me?" and my other favorite, "Your insecurities are not my responsibility." Well, my insecurities are about you having cheated when you have clearly cheated, my dude, which is incidentally also why I do not trust you. Story 4. They tell you in a moment of anger, then try to take it back. My husband has done this while drunk, several times, to try to get me to admit to things I haven't done. Now these comments have me second-guessing. I had an ex do this a few times. Boy, was she embarrassed after the 3rd or 4th time she said it, and I actually believed her. She told you 4 times that she was cheating on you? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 4 times, can't get fooled again. Honestly, it's crazy no matter what to bring up hypothetically cheating on your partner. Even if they're not cheating, which is unlikely, they're still being incredibly manipulative and toxic. It's not a joke, it's not a passing thought, it's serious. Story 5. When I finally got off work early for once after working doubles, and instead of texting my boyfriend that I was on my way home, I stopped and got his favorite McDonald's meal and iced coffee. I used my last $10. It was a sweet little, "Surprise, I'm home, I love you" gesture. I was greeted in the hallway by him coming towards me with a shocked and angry look saying, "You were trying to catch me doing something," as I'm standing there holding the food. We were together 6 years before I built up the courage to leave. It was only a couple of weeks after that happened. I really hope you asserted yourself at that accusation by just chowing down on the meal you brought him. I was so emotionally beaten down by him, I honestly said, "I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to do anything." There were so many other situations with that I look back on and feel so stupid for. I simply didn't want to see it, so I just went on about my day. You guys don't even know the plot twist though. It was men that he was cheating on me with. There are other people that have been cheated on, and then there are veterans like this person. Story 6. When they become cagey about things they're normally open about. I've known a couple of people who did this. They were very open, liked to talk about their entire day and would answer nearly any question. Then suddenly they'd be out on a night with their friends and the details of their night could be summed up in a couple of words, and there'd be odd gaps in the story while they remember and try to sort through it all. When I was cheated on, that's a big thing I noticed. He seemed to stop sharing as much. There was a wall that hadn't been there before. Same here. He always said everything was fine. He would answer questions in the shortest way possible. Eventually, when he broke up with me, he said it was because I never listened to him when he spoke about his problems. He refused to ever tell me what was going on. He created a problem to blame me for it, to make himself feel like it was okay that he cheated. Cheaters are wankers. That's what my ex allowed to happen when he started taking his new girlfriend to places we'd only ever been together. She spun the narrative of me being some awful cheater, ironic since she was the one cheating on her husband with my husband, a neglectful parent, a self-absorbed and unloving spouse, etc., etc. My ex allowed all that savaging of me and my reputation because it made him the victim and her the heroine. Gag me. When he returned from a business trip, his checked bag was missing. I was picking him up from the airport like usual and he didn't want me to go with him to file a baggage claim. Something seemed dicey, so I checked his flight number. He wasn't coming from Seattle like he stated, but from Massachusetts. I went in his backpack and found a stub for a whale watching trip that confirmed it. Then I found a second cell phone. Spider sense is always reliable. One thing that gets me the most about cheaters is the mental gymnastics they have to go through to convince themselves that they can secretly fly to a different state and not get found out. I'm seeing a common theme of people getting dumber and dumber the further they get into cheating on their partner. I can only assume that cheating lowers the IQ, so beware of that, everybody. Story 7. When they want to take a break and reevaluate things in the relationship, but in reality they just want to get back with their ex without feeling any guilt. Someone did that to me once. I dug a little deeper to find out what was going on because he went from, "I like you so much I can't wait to see you again," to "I'm not ready for this," and his explanation just didn't seem to add up. He finally confessed that he was just using me to get over his ex, and that she'd asked him to meet up with her the next day. He wanted to end things with me so he still had the option to do stuff with his ex without feeling guilty. I blocked him straight away. The next day he had the nerve to make a new Snapchat so that he can message me and ask if we can try again. I'm guessing his ex didn't want him anywhere near her either. Story 8. If they accuse you of cheating constantly. Funny how a guilty conscience projects like that. Alternatively, if not accusatory, they're asking you constantly what you'd do if they cheated, like a test or something. My ex-fiance asked me that a ton over the course of our last year together. I never thought anything of it. I'm the type to blindly trust you 10,000% until you give me reason not to. Turns out she was cheating on me with multiple dudes. Some she was even sexting while we fell asleep spooning at night. This was back in 2018 and I'm still not okay. My ex was like this. I found the secret dating profile after we broke up. She started it 6 months before we ended things. My ex said all of his exes cheated on him. I think they most likely dumped him, and instead of taking the L, he just convinced himself that the relationship wasn't over until he said it was. I was friends with one of his exes, so I doubt every one of his exes cheated. He consistently accused me of either cheating or that I would cheat on him. I spent most of my time at home, staying up late and waking up early for school and work. I was also the only one initiating doing it, and he constantly rejected me, then had the audacity to ask me towards the end, "Why don't we ever have to do it anymore?" Story 9. When my husband cheated, it was definitely the phone. He was hiding it at night when he'd go to bed. Also, he wouldn't ever let me go to work-related get-togethers that the other spouses would attend. So cheating with a coworker? Yep. Kinda sounds like he never told his coworkers that he was married in the first place. My brother recently found out his wife had been cheating with a dentist that works at her office, and she also started out hiding her phone at night. He only found out because the wife of the dentist contacted my brother. My sister-in-law claimed it was just some simple flirting. She just bought a new phone with a new phone number and got a new credit card. Story 10. Your dog vomits another woman's underwear. I had just arrived home from work when I had to take the dog out for his walk. Normally, I'd wait, but this time the dog would not stop whining and protesting near the door. This usually means he really has to go to the bathroom. I was tired, so I called out to my husband, but he was showering in the middle of the day, which he never does. So I took the dog on his walk. When we got to the sidewalk, he threw up an abnormally large pile of puke. Normally, I would look away in disgust, but there was a bit of pink mixed in. My dog has always been pretty great at eating just about all the small knickknacks that people bring over. Curious, I grabbed a nearby stick and began poking through the mess. It was torn, so I had to spread it out like some forensic scientist, but the floral patterns and size became clear to me. It was underwear. My dog is banned from our room due to his prolific taste in undergarments. All my underwear comes from a specialty store because I'm a bigger girl, so there was no way these could be mine. So we made our way back home. There was my husband fresh from the shower with the stupid smile on his face. I'll never forget the words he said. "Hey honey, is everything okay with the dog?" He was howling a lot, but I was so busy I just couldn't check on him. I withheld the evidence in one of those doggy bags for poop, so he couldn't see it just yet. My love for my husband was immense, so in my throes of emotion, I was going to give him one chance to come clean. I asked him, "What were you doing?" That was when he decided to tell me a fun fact about WWE in 1998. Long story short, the dog puke ended up dumped on him, and he stopped yelling as soon as he spotted the underwear. Hey, please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. Story 11. My ex would sleep with her phone under her pillow. I had an idea it was happening, so I would keep an eye on this guy's MySpace. Then he posted one of those questionnaire things that were popular at the time. One of the questions was, "Who did you last kiss?" and his answer was my ex. MySpace Tom had my back. A lot of you seem to think that she might have been browsing the internet, but this was a time before the internet was available on your phone. There was nothing to do on a phone other than call and text. Most phones also didn't have screen locks with passwords or facial recognition. Anyone could get on your phone, so the best way to avoid this would be to hide it, or sleep with it under your pillow, so if someone does try to get it, they wake you up. Story 12. When their roommates ask to meet with you privately and tell you that your girlfriend had someone over in her room and the music on loud. The same thing she'd do when we'd get busy at her place. More context, this was in 2009. We were almost 4 years into our relationship. I was getting ready to defend my thesis for my master's degree, and she was applying to PhD programs. I was willing to move with her wherever she went, and even had my mom help me find a nice white gold ring with a sapphire as the engagement ring, since the girl hated diamonds. My ex's roommates told me they were torn between telling me and minding their business. I used to think one of the guys in her house was an a-hole for often being rude to my ex, but it turns out it was because he couldn't play nice with her knowing she was cheating on me. I was dating a woman in a foreign country. Her roommate was a guy from Australia who I was buddies with, through her. I arrived after a long flight and he said, "Hey bro, let's go get a beer and catch up." Over beers, he told me that she had been going on dates and came home very late some nights a few weeks ago before I got back. He risked losing his room and her as a friend to give a bro a heads up. It's gotta be really hard to break it to someone that they're being cheated on, but it's always the right thing to do. In fact, you can tell a lot about someone's morals based on how they act when they know their friend cheated. Story 13. Here's a fun one, courtesy of my dad and his second wife. When the tire tread pattern on the fresh snow of your driveway matches the uncommon tires on your brother-in-law's new work vehicle. My dad's second wife was having an affair with my uncle, my dad's sister's husband, his brother-in-law, and my dad figured it out after coming home early from work one night and noticing a distinctive tire width and tread pattern in his driveway that matched my uncle's work truck. My uncle had no reason for being there that night. He went inside and asked her if my uncle had been there, and she acted surprised and denied it. He then mentioned the tire marks and why he recognized them, and the house of cards promptly crumbled. Story 14. I have a list for you. Random phone calls. Her phone would ring and suddenly she'd have to go to another room to answer it. Random disappearances. She'd be gone inexplicably for hours at night with no explanation. And how dare you ask for one? You don't own her. No, but we were married. Loss of intimacy. You either get very reduced or no love at all depending on how committed they are to keeping up the pretense that all is normal. Random emotions. Their emotional states appear to have nothing to do with you. They might be really happy or really angry and it just comes out of the blue. Lack of interest in talking to you. Suddenly being judgmental of you. Nothing you do is any good anymore. The real reason is because they don't actually want to be with you anymore. Wanting to go on a holiday without you and the kids just for a break. And lastly, when I walked into the bedroom to ask a question and she shoved her laptop closed and held it in her arms, she was shaking. That was when I knew for sure. I just walked out. I already knew there were people like this, but it's just so messed up how some people can't break up with someone. Just wait for them to get sick and leave. Do these people not realize that they're also wasting their own time? Story 15. Intentionally being left out of photos that are getting posted online is a big one. I never thought it would matter that much to me until I realized that some photos we took on a very simple hiking trip together had been cropped, or not shared at all if I was in them. He posted every other picture, even of a small snowman I'd made and left on a bench. That was one of the early signs that something was off, and it led to me snooping his socials on my own phone to see if my hunch was correct. A whole year of being together with photos and family events, and there wasn't a single photo of me or us anywhere. That was when the paranoia peaked, I think. Sorry that happened to you. I had a similar thing happen to me during vacation with my ex towards the end of our 3-year relationship. Only the pictures of her went on her socials. I confronted her about it and she said that it wasn't intentional and that she was sorry. The next 2 days passed and she did the same thing. Only solo pics on her socials. I confronted her again and she said, "I'm sending the ones of us to my family. I'm not trying to hide the fact that I'm dating you." Yeah, the way they spin it on you with so little effort somehow makes it worse. Story 16. You come home exhausted from work and your partner accuses you of cheating. My ex used to get so angry if I walked in the door and went to pee right away. I drive an hour home from work due to traffic. Having to pee is not abnormal. He made it a whole thing. The bathroom was right inside the door and he would be at the other end of the house. Apparently going into the bathroom before seeing him was equivalent to me washing off the scent of my lover. Every time he accused me of anything, looking back, that's exactly what he was guilty of. Yeah, it sounds like he was all too familiar with the process of coming home and hiding the way he smells. Story 17. You catch them doing the deed with someone else. It's even worse if they don't stop. I walked in on an ex cheating on me. I stood there in a trance for a second to realize what was going on, and then when I realized we were done, I started getting naked and said, "I just need a minute to get hard and then I'll join in." The guy couldn't get out fast enough and my ex just sat there bawling. I grabbed my essential stuff and walked out. Never saw or heard from her again. Funny how the cheaters tend to cry when caught. Like, you did this. I can't believe you'd catch me doing this to you. How dare you? After 23 years and 3 kids, I caught my ex cheating with a guy she had kissed 25 years prior. They were kissing in the car I'd paid for, and the guy wanted to fight me for turning up while he was kissing my wife. When I started getting the better of this guy, my wife yelled at me for punching her friend. When he tried to run away, I kicked his legs out from under him, so he went down hard on the concrete. There was a split second when I thought about stomping on his head, then I thought of my kids and the possibility of me going to jail for hurting this loser. I got back in my car and drove home to my kids. We officially split about 6 months later, which involved the police removing her from the house and her being pepper sprayed for trying to bite police. The kids stayed with me. I just want to take a second to recognize how legendary it is that you started stripping and act like you're going to join. A real king. Story 18. Here's an interesting one I haven't seen in the comments yet. When they start doing more small gifts, more help around the house, and simply just more involved in the relationship. This isn't always the reason why there is such a sudden shift, but this can be an easily missed sign. The shift can happen because they feel guilty and they're trying to make it up to you. It could be them trying to manipulate you into never even considering the idea of them cheating because they're so considerate. Or maybe it's them trying to make it up to you without telling you. This isn't a sign of cheating on its own though. It's just a sign that maybe you need to pay more attention and be alert to the relationship. God, this one is the most betraying in my opinion. My boyfriend went to a work party once and he didn't text me back after staying out hours after he was supposed to get back. He called begging for my forgiveness, saying he just lost his phone, etc. He offered to cook me a late dinner, anything to make me feel better. I was just like, dude, I'm glad you had fun, don't worry about it. I honestly felt bad about ruining his fun. The next day I see a picture of him, phone in hand with his arm wrapped around his attractive coworker at the party. I looked at his phone and he texted his mom all night about the special girl he met. His sucking up immediately turned into, why can't I have privacy? Story 19. I guess I kind of allowed this to happen, but it still hurt just the same. It was a couple of months after my grandpa passed, and I hadn't given her the D at all in the time. Grief is a funny thing. It messes with so many things in the body. Anyway, in my grief-ridden stupor, I trusted her when she said she was going for a drive with a friend to cut loose a bit. I was okay with it because I wanted her to have a good time and not be stuck in the house with my depressed self. She came home in a good mood, and I didn't think anything of it until she went to wash just her underwear. I checked her phone that night after she fell asleep, and apparently she had been talking to this guy for about a month. They had done the deed, and she wanted to make me out as the bad guy when I confronted her with the evidence from her phone. She said I pushed her to it by not doing it with her. I kicked her out in a hurry, and I don't really remember much except she was the one yelling. I was pretty much just numb. I don't think I really processed it until almost 2 weeks later. I have an identical story. I think my ex was attracted to the strong, confident man. I usually was. When she saw me weakened by grief in a vulnerable state, she started making plans elsewhere. It took me some time to realize how pathetic and insecure she was. You definitely didn't allow this to happen. All you did was trust her to be a good person. If somebody really loves you, your grief and depression cannot drive them to adultery. It's understandable if she doesn't know how to handle your grief, or even if it was just too much for her, but if that pushes someone to cheat, that was never the real issue. Story 20. Changing passwords to devices after previously being okay with you having access to them. Lack of intimacy over long stretches of time. No longer wanting to sleep next to you at all, go on dates, or do anything a couple would usually do. And my biggest flag is finding things that you're positive aren't yours, but they try to pass the item off like it's always been yours. I'll never have solid proof that I was cheated on, but my instincts were screaming it when our intimacy went away and he wanted to sleep on the couch every single night. Then he started changing his passwords as my paranoia kicked in. The first fight happened at this point. Next came him keeping me out of the photos that he would share on his social media accounts, just in case people thought we were dating, which we were. That was when I caught him talking to someone through PS4 online and she thought he was single. The second fight happened then, and I was in denial because he was gaslighting me so much. It escalated to him wanting to be gone every weekend to a buddy's house, and I was never allowed to come along. Eventually, I found makeup in my car after one of those pal weekends. I don't wear makeup unless it's a special occasion, and I never wear lip gloss, which is what I found. Then the final fight happened, and we didn't stay together after that one. To everyone out there, it usually starts small and grows over time. Trust yourself to see the signs and leave. Don't let someone gaslight you in this scenario. You are not crazy for wanting to play a game or watch YouTube videos on your partner's laptop when you've always been allowed to before. Story 21. When she tells you she's having dinner with her brother while you're having dinner with her brother. Thanks for watching until the end. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.